When talking about Bomb's core team and his teammates, it's obvious to point out the most powerful of the group. You've got Bomb, who's an irregular. It's not even fair how strong he is. You've got Coon, who's from one of the 10 great families, so of course he's an absolute monster. But we often tend to forget that Rak is also a beast all on his own, not just because he's a crocodile, but Rak has a lot of skill and, more importantly, a lot of potential. So today we're going to break down all of these skills and talents that Rak has, as well as some potential for the future. Because again, Rak actually has a lot going for him, and especially a lot of mystery. So of course a lot of this stuff will be revealed the farther we go in the comic, but we're going to break down all that we know today about Rak Wraithraiser and his powers. If you like these kinds of videos where we break down the powers of these individual characters in Tower of God, then make sure to like this video, that tells me you want to see more, and subscribe because we're on the road to 40,000 subscribers, which is absolutely bonkers. And yeah, daily content here on the channel, lots of it Tower of God. It's pretty fun. At the current point in the story, Rak is a C rank regular who is a spear bearer. He's been a spear bearer since season 1, and right off the bat, he's a very talented one. During the second floor test, the spear bearer teacher, the positions teacher, offered his candidates, the spear bearer candidates, a test. If they could hit a target that was way far away, like meters and meters away, then they would pass and they wouldn't have to take the hide and seek test. This was the only teacher, the only mini test that was given to the regulars at the time that would allow them to skip a test altogether. It literally guaranteed them a spot as a spear bearer, and they could continue up the tower basically, which was pretty nuts. And Rak was able to hit that target. And this was, again, years ago in the story, and Rak was already showing that he, as a spear bearer, is very talented. During the crown game, we also saw that he wasn't just talented with long-range spear-bearing attacks, which is what spear bearers are known for, but also close range. Even his fight against Coon during the second floor first test, the elimination test, Coon had a really hard time finding an opening to stop Rak from fighting them, and so that they could all hug and pass that test, right? So they could become teammates. He had a really hard time, and Coon is from the 10 great families, and he really had a hard time finding that opening. So Rak, very good at close range. It's funny because he even says something when they choose him for spear bearer. He says, "I'm not a fisherman," and he probably is saying this because he wasn't used to long range fighting. He likes the up close and personal, and yet he's extremely good at those long range attacks. Once again, during the crown game, this is all season 1, but this shows you how strong he was early on. He was able to attack Levin's gun from across the arena. He threw that spear with precise precision. I am busting out the big words today. And yeah, Rak has kept up those skills going into seasons 2 and 3. What's really interesting is he used this red spear for all of season 1 and then the first half of season 2. But during the workshop battle, he ended up purchasing Mad Shocker, which was his weapon of choice for most of the rest of the series until very recently. He still has it. This was a very powerful spear. The Mad Shocker was designed as a throwing spear, but once again, he was able to use it for both close range and from far away. It gave many regulars trouble, and it's great because it was able to sort of change sizes, and it had this, it packed a punch. The Mad Shocker was crazy, so he used that for a really long time. And then his most recent weapon is an Ancient Spear. It doesn't have a name yet. I'm wondering if it'll get a name, but he is in possession of this Ancient Spear that even regular rankers have a hard time controlling. This Ancient Spear is extremely powerful, and it takes a toll on anybody who isn't a descendant of an ancient or an ancient themselves when they use it. We saw Viralaine use it against Doom during season 3, and he was screaming in pain as he threw it. And Viralaine, who's obviously a very powerful ranker, but he's not an ancient one, was able to severely damage Doom. Now, Doom prepared for the attack right before it hit, but Doom even said if he hadn't done that, he would have been in trouble, right? And even when he did that, he was couldn't move for a little while. It knocked him out for a bit. So Rak having that spear is a huge deal, especially since he may be connected to the Ancients, and we're gonna get to that in a bit. Moving on from his position and talking about his species, the Wraithraisers have a very strong resistance to Shinsu. Because they swim through Shinsu and they're hunting particularly turtles, of course, they built up a strong immunity to this divine substance that is everywhere in the tower. I mean, it's so important to have Shinsu resistance. Obviously, Leiroro's test was all about that. So the fact that Rak does have a strong Shinsu resistance, that is extremely, extremely huge when climbing the tower. We saw him walk through that wall no problem, and he's obviously had no problem with it since then, so that is definitely saying something. And the Wraithraisers are also obviously physically gifted. They're large, crocodilian creatures, and Rak is no exception. I mean, he was jumping off of cliffs in Season 1 and landing on creatures far below him with no problem. Obviously, combined with his spear and his fists, I mean, he is physically extremely powerful, obviously for his position, and that only increases as he continues climbing up the tower. What's really interesting about Rak is he has this intuition, he has this sort of instinct about him. When we first see him, I think it's chapter 5 or 6, I think it's chapter 6 in Season 1, when he can sense all the powerful regulars around him and even the powerful weapons like the Green April and the Black March, just from his instinct and his intuition. That's really impressive, because even Kun didn't sense that that was the Black March right away. He had to read it, and he was like, oh, this is the Black March. But Rak knew. He knew this weapon was something else, and he knew, okay, these regulars, and he pointed out the specific ones in the comic. He's like, these regulars are the most powerful ones here. That says something. He has that intuition, and his instinct is also extremely important. We saw that during the door test when he chose a door. He was like, dude, I'm done with this. We just gotta pick, you know? And that is extremely important. It's really important to have that in your group. So his instinct and his intuition have come in very handy throughout their climb. This may not seem like a huge bonus right away, but it's actually extremely huge, and that's the fact that he is a compression licenser. He was accidentally, not accidentally, Han Sung-yu compressed him because Rak picked a fight with him when he didn't realize who it was during Season 1, and he became tiny. And then when he got huge, he ended up making a contract with the administrator to be able to change into small form or big form whenever he would like. So this is actually huge, because most of the time we see Rak in tiny form, and if you're... SIU doesn't like... well, he has a hard time drawing Rak in his large form, so this is obviously a big part of it. But if you think about it, this is extremely important. I mean, we've seen Rak go undercover a few times and sneak around. He can't do that if he's in his big form. So being able to compress like that is extremely huge. We've seen a few compression users in the tower. Vespa is another one, right? There are definitely other regulars out there, but being able to change your size like that is huge. And Rak seems to keep his power even when he's small. He fought Reflejo when he was small, he fought Delete when he was small, you know, and when he gets bigger, he obviously has more of a presence and maybe his power increases, you know, who knows? But the fact that he can change size is actually so key. Like, that is so important. The last but certainly not least important thing to know about Rak and his powers is that he is a direct descendant of a native one. So there used to be this being in the tower, the native one, who split himself into 5 different powers essentially, and his descendants basically were able to have control over these elements, and one of those elements was Earth. Now, these descendants actually climbed the tower with Jihad and the 10 Great Warriors, some of the direct descendants, which is very interesting, and you can trace the lineage. So even though Jihad killed a lot of these direct descendants, and they ended up becoming the cursed people, or some of them did, Rak still is alive. And when the data of Kun Edwan saw Rak and was like, wait, you're a direct descendant, and you're, like, it was hard for him to process, which is fascinating. So I'm not sure if the Wraithraisers are, like, secretive and not many people know about them. Maybe Rak himself is special, but one way or another, Rak is a direct descendant of the native ones, which is huge. Not only does this add to his power, but it also adds to his potential. So obviously on the hidden floor, Rak and Kun both learned how to manifest their Shinsu quality, Kun with ice, Rak with rocks or earth. And at first, Rak kind of had a hard time with this because, you know, I mean, it's Rak learning how to use Shinsu, like, you know, no wonder. But this is almost different. He's able to have control over the terrain around him. When he eats the rocks, he is able to, you know, form rocks around his arms, but he's able to use rocks that are around him, which Kun can't do. You know, he's able to create ice, and even though Rak can also create rocks, it's almost like he has more control over the terrain itself, which again, direct descendant of a native one. That's actually huge. So this ties into his spear that he has. Now, there's no confirmation whether or not the direct descendants are connected to the ancients. It's heavily implied though. When Rak saw Evankel's flames, it like triggered something inside of him. And also the the creatures that the ancient people like Evenkel and Kelhalam can summon forth, there's a connection there, and it's we gotta hear more about it from SIU in the story, but keep that in mind. So, you know, Rak was able to also use the spear without any trouble, so there's certainly a connection there, so definitely keep that in mind. Regardless, Rak's Shinsu quality is a rock shield, and he was able to create this shield or create a defense for the team during the hidden floor. He was able to summon rocks with Kuhn's ice and attack the mirror, and obviously Rak's big moment was taking down Levy, a very powerful regular, and he just constantly just sent rock after rock after rock on this guy and completely wrecked him. He had to retreat. You know, he even said, "I'll kill Hockney," and Rak didn't care. He just kept pounding him. And that says a lot. Levy is a specially trained regular he's basically working for Jihad, right? Or there's, you know, he was special. And Rak just completely obliterated this guy. Maybe it wasn't a fair fight, but regardless, his rock power is extremely important, and he has used it a lot, and it has come very much in handy. So all in all, Rak is a very powerful spear bear who has control over the earth, or over rocks in particular, and he is not to be underestimated. He especially works well with Kuhn and Bomb. Even Yuri herself, when she was looking at their teamwork during the Helltrain saga, she had to point out these three work so well together. They fought Reflejo, they fought Delete, a Ranker, right? And obviously Bomb was carrying his weight there, but still, all three of them came in clutch. That says a lot, and she even said each one of them individually have amazing skills. So do not underestimate Rak. I mean, it also brings up the fight with Inietta, where Inietta was like, this guy is strong, right? And he's from one of the 10 Great families. So Rak is an absolute beast, and I have a feeling that he's going to continue to get stronger in time. You know, I know SIU likes to focus on Bomb, but I think eventually Rak is going to be an incredibly powerful monster. He already is extremely strong, but imagine when he starts to master his rock powers, master his spear-bearing powers with this new spear, and like start to learn who he really is and what that's gonna unlock. I'm so excited. He's powerful now, but I can only imagine how powerful he'll be in the future. Hey guys, Future Joe here, just letting you know that AOA just dropped a new Tower of God ranking video over on their channel, top 5 characters in the pre-workshop battle season 2 mini arcs at the start of season 2. It's a lot of fun. I actually appear in that video. It's a continuation of our Tower of God ranking series, so you can expect a new one on my channel a week from today, but regardless, that video is linked down below. It was a lot of fun to make, so definitely go check that out. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Really hope you enjoyed. Once again, if you enjoyed, do leave a like and subscribe. Less than half of you who watch my videos are subscribed. It's getting closer. The gap is getting there, so definitely subscribe if you want to help that gap to close a little bit more. Tons more Tower of God content coming to the channel, especially with the comic coming back soon. Oh my gosh, there's gonna be tons of theory videos and discussion videos. It's gonna be such a blast, so definitely stick around for that. All right, guys, I'll see you in my next Tower of God Powers video. Take care.